Hey everybody, welcome to the Masterbooks Homeschool Curriculum Summit. I am Randy Pratt, the VP of Sales and Marketing at New Leaf Publishing Group in Masterbooks. This is my lovely wife, and what do you do at Masterbooks?
I'm a brand and curriculum manager, and I'm also an author.
So you work on creating the product, helping the team in the creation of the product, and I work on selling it.
Exactly.
So today what we're going to do is we're going to do two sessions. First session we're going to go through the catalog and talk about math and language. And then we're going to go into talking about, in the next session we'll talk about history, social studies, science, and electives. So let's get started. This year we have the new catalog, which is the Masterbooks curriculum catalog that came out in the early part of the year. I guess it was January.
I think so.
And then we just mailed the summer update. And so if it's okay, we'll go through the summer update because that has the most current information and all of that. And so we'll start just walking through the catalog.
Awesome. All right.
So we come to the app, and the first thing, and if you're not part of the Masterbooks app, if I could encourage you to, it's really an awesome community of people. I think there's about 16,000 people that are in the community, but there's chit chat, there's a chapel where people put prayer requests in, there's a community, there's inspirations, there's a photography group in there. So I think it's an awesome opportunity for families that use Masterbooks to come together. We come to the early learning. Can you tell us just a little bit about the early learning and what's available if you have a preschooler or a kindergartner?
Sure. We have a couple of different options for preschool. We have our Biblical Beginnings for preschoolers that uses a bunch of different books, brings them all together, and then walks you through how to use them. It has probably a bit more academic, a lot of spiritual instruction, some hands-on things. It's much more teacher intensive.
Okay.
And so you want to prepare for that if that's the route that you go. We also have Stepping Stones, which takes a developmental approach, which is it's a whole child approach. It doesn't focus just on academics. It focuses on the child learning a lot of different things. You know, there's so much that has to come together for brain development at these ages, and so Stepping Stones does a wonderful job at getting a student started, a little bit familiar with academics, but also a well-rounded experience.
Okay.
And then we go into Simply K. Simply K is your basic kindergarten course that, again, is a developmental approach. Same author as Stepping Stones, which is Carrie Bailey.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes a more holistic approach. It does not include math. It does not include social studies or science.
Okay.
It focuses more on letters. It has Bible, and it has developmental activities.
Okay.
And so from there, oh, wait a minute. I completely forgot. We have two new things coming out for kindergarten, which is super exciting.
Yes.
So I've wanted to make this available for a long time. And so before, we released Simply K, I already had my sights set on a science and a social studies for K. In fact, when we developed Simply K, we worked with Carrie Bailey so that we could integrate a separate science and social studies. And that just gives our families options.
Okay.
So if they don't want to add social studies or science, they don't have to. And so your math is based on the Math K. It was a cooperative effort by Carrie Bailey and Angela Odell, who is the author of our Math Lessons for a Living Education. And so they worked together to create a kindergarten math, which is a 5-day-a-week schedule, I believe.
Okay.
And the Simply K, I believe, is a 3-day-a-week, if I remember correctly.
I think you're right.
And then the social studies and the science are a 2-day. And then that way you can incorporate all of these books if you want to, and it's not going to overwhelm the student.
Right.
So we are super excited The My Story K is in the same format as the My Story 1 and 2, except it's only going to be done 2 days a week. And
geared towards a kindergarten level.
And geared towards a kindergarten level, exactly.
Okay.
And then the Adventures in the Let's Talk Science K, Adventures in the World Around Me, it's going through design right now. It's going to be available as soon as we're able to get that done. It'll be available digital first. I'm not sure about the printed version.
Right now we're targeting October.
Okay.
So hopefully October of this year will be available in print.
Because of the printing issues that we're dealing with this year.
Yep.
It's taken a little bit longer to get things back. But it is so cute. So I cannot wait for the moms to see this. It's so cute. It's so cute. And My Story is awesome as well. It's just I'm currently working on the Let's Talk Science K, and so just today I was working with the designer and some of the things that he did. It's just adorable.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about both of these being released.
One of the things I love about what we're seeing with masterbooks is the team. We've matured and we've evolved into producing better product. Mm-hmm. We have the communities like the Moms of Masterbooks. We have the app with 16,000. There's 34,000 people now, I think, in the Moms of Masterbooks group. Right. So we have this feedback that comes back, and we're always improving and always listening to what people are saying. And every time we put out product, I think we get better and better.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So in the next couple of pages, we've got our scope and sequence. I think one of the most important things to say about that is sometimes you find multiple options for a particular grade. So maybe you have a third grader and there's like a lot of options. With Masterbooks, we recognize one size doesn't fit all, and sometimes what works well with one child may not work as well with another, so there's options. Choose the one that you think fits your family best, that you think your student is most interested in, and that you would get the most out of.
Right.
Then we put together the basic four. Then we put together a basic 4 subject set. And what that gives you is the 4 core subjects: math, language, social studies, and science. And then from there you can add Bible, you could add phys ed, you could add, which we now have in the academy. Mm-hmm. Very excited. You could add music. But the basic 4 gives you, these are the foundations that you should make sure that you have. And you can mix and match this. This is just a great starting place. If you're like, just tell me what I need to do, go to the basic 4 and choose the grade level for that student.
Right, it's a really good starting point, and some families just prefer just to order the basic 4 every year as they go along, and then others it's just a good starting point to jump from, learn what they like, what they don't like, and try different things.
Another thing, in level K now, we added level K basic 4. This new this year that has the Simply K, the math, the My Story, and the Adventures in the World Around Me. And we also added an 11th grade. And the 11th grade has the Algebra 2, Jensen's Format Writing, the Life Science Origins, which is one of our favorite courses, mm-hmm. Civics and Constitution, and Economics. So there's 2 new grade levels, top and bottom.
Awesome. That's exciting.
It is. Okay, so then we come to Math Lessons for a Living Education. Tell us about Math Lessons for a Living Education.
Okay, I'm going to do just a quick overview of it because we're going to be interviewing Angela Odell, and so we're going to hear from her and a little bit more in depth. But our Math Lessons for a Living Education starts with kindergarten, goes all the way up to level 6. It's a 1-book format until you get to level 6, and then it's a 2-book format. You want to get the teacher guide and the student book.
So explain. I know we're early in this, but
yes.
You mentioned a teacher guide, and sometimes with teacher guides there can be a little bit of confusion. What's a teacher guide from Masterbooks?
Usually a teacher guide includes, it depends a little bit on the subject itself, but usually it includes anything that the teacher is going to take control of and hand out to the student. And so it can include anything from a daily schedule to worksheets to answer keys, quizzes, tests, that sort of thing.
Okay. So, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. We got K through 6, the math.
Right, and then we also have the practice makes perfect. So let's talk a little bit, and the teaching companion. So the teaching companion, you only buy one. You don't buy a new one every single year.
For the whole series.
Right, for the whole series. And that gives you the heart behind the series. It really helps you understand the approach that Angela makes in this program, and it gives you some extra helps with your student along the way. And families love it. I mean, I've heard so many moms recommending to other moms, you really need the teaching companion.
Yep.
So they really love it, highly recommend it, but only buy it once. And then it'll cover the whole series. And then we have the Practice Makes Perfect. Right now, do we have out all 3 levels?
Yep.
3 levels are out. And so if your student just needs a little bit extra practice and you don't want to have to really burden him or her down, you can just have the student do a page out of the Practice Makes Perfect. It's not too much, it's not overbearing, it's just enough. And they're set up in a little different of a way because, you know, one of the things that is a pet peeve of mine in traditional curriculum that really caused a lot of grief for my older students when we were homeschooling is when a student was frustrated because they were having trouble learning a concept, throwing 20 more of the exact same type of problem at them did not help. It only frustrated them more. It only exhausted their minds. And it never it made them dread it. It never went well. And so what I love about this option is you can approach it from a slightly different angle. And we did the same thing in language lessons, but I won't get ahead of myself. So another thing that this is really great for is if you take summer breaks or if you take breaks throughout your school year. These are a really good way just to kind of keep their minds going in math. So that's how personally I would use them. I would probably, if my student got stuck on a concept, I might pull a page or 2 and have them work on it, and I would save the rest to work through over the summer. Or if we did a lot of them where they needed a lot of extra practice, a student that just struggled a little bit in math, and I used a lot of it, I might buy the same one again and have them do a quick refresher through the summer. Or I know some families will take 2 to 4 week, sometimes 6-week breaks in between. So that would also be a good time to insert that, just a light little sprinkle of math in a different way than what they've been doing in their book.
Okay. Then we have the flashcards. Flashcards are right brain flashcards. The right brain concept is different than your normal flashcard that you would buy at a department store. These cards are actually built where they have the answers on the flashcard. So 1 + 1 = 2. And what you're doing is you're teaching the brain a sequence. When you see 1 + 1 = 2, and then when you see the problem somewhere else and it's missing one, your brain fills in the blanks. We fill in the blanks, right? Have you ever seen a word spelled wrong, but you look at it and you know what word it is because your brain solves the problem? That's a right brain tactic. And so the right brain flashcards is a little different approach to studying your math, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. There is a placement test online. We highly recommend taking the placement test.
Absolutely.
The other thing is when you're looking at previews, it's important to note that like the first 10 lessons are review. Those are the things that your child should know. It should be easy. You're just reinforcing those concepts, making sure they know it before they move into the new math. And one other thing that I would say is this program is very hands-on. You read a story and then you spend those next 5 days doing the math from the story. So it's very real-world application-based, and students retain it really well because studies show that when we actually use the knowledge that we're learning, we're so much more effective than just sitting there trying to do it, work through a page. And so it's a very effective program. Not a lot of drill and kill in this. Right.
And some would say that it takes a gentle approach. I would agree, but the topics that are covered are still really on point. But
yes.
we would rather your student be at the level that they actually are working. And so that placement test is really important that they're at the right place.
And I would say, in homeschooling, the one thing that we're trying to prepare our children for is algebra in ninth grade.
Right.
And so sometimes we'll get the question, like, because maybe it seems a little gentler or they're not doing hours of math every day, you know, are they actually learning anything? Well, what I can tell you is that students go through Math Lessons for a Living Education. They go into Principles of Mathematics 1 and 2, which is a pre-algebra course, arithmetic. And then they move into Jacobs. And I will put Jacobs Math against any curriculum on the market. In fact, I had a professor one time. He was a professor, doctor of mathematics at a university, and he came up to me at a convention and said, I've looked at every math curriculum in the hall. I've evaluated them all over the weekend. And he had one problem that he was wishing we had taught a little bit different, but I said, well then can you tell me, how did we rank with all the curriculums in the hall? How would you rank us? He said, I would rank the Jacobs Math as one of the best curriculums in the hall by far. So, and Jacobs has been around for over 30 years. It's been a standard in homeschooling since long ago. It's used by some of the top charter schools in the country. So we know that this lays a solid foundation without frustrating and killing the motivation of the child. And it prepares them to go into Principles of Math 2 and then into the algebra and geometry.
And when you do not use the drill and kill method, it allows the student to enjoy the process, which really helps understanding and retention. Because once stress starts to overtake the mind, things shut down. And then the student has a lot of difficulty learning and retaining the information.
And once that happens, once the brain begins to process things with negative, it's hard to begin to change that experience.
Yes.
We learned the hard way with our oldest.
Yep.
We were homeschooling. This was 20 some years ago when she did her math. And we thought that you could just push her through it. It was a matter of being strong-willed. It was a matter of, you know, she's just not wanting to do the math. And when you kill that joy.
She had a bad experience starting off in a private school. And so that's what set the tone.
Yes. And then once you have that entrenched, it becomes very difficult. Then school, anytime we would sit down to do school, it was an absolute frustration because in her brain, it was just going to be
a negative
painful.
experience.
Okay, so Math Lessons for a Living Education, great solution for grades K through 6.
Fantastic.
Principles of Mathematics by Kate Hannon.
Yes. Love this two-year set. In fact, I have a son that's starting in it, and I have a son that just finished. And so I always get excited when they're going to start this. My one son took a look at it, and he's the one who always tries to find the shortest, easiest, quickest, because he has other things he wants to be doing than school. And so he looked at it, and he was just like, oh, he didn't want to do it. And he begged me to start school early, so I said, go ahead. And he got out his math books, and he started in it, and he's actually enjoying it. And I knew he would.
That's good.
Because he's also my thinker. And this course really makes you think. It really brings together math with God's design. And it's at a level where kids are starting to think about those things, make connections, and it's a perfect time before they hit all those, higher level subjects, all of them in high school. It's a really good time to solidify that association that God created math, and Kate does it in a way that I've never seen before.
Right.
And so it's just really good. And she's
going to be on talking about it too.
Yeah, so we'll dive a little deeper. You can dive in.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I love about what Kate does is a lot of times we hear math is benign, right? It's just one of those subjects, it doesn't matter. And Kate has done such a phenomenal job of making math about God. Like, math is the language that God used to bring order to the universe. 1 + 1 = 2. Why? Because the Creator wrote a language that gives consistency. 1 + 1 never equals 3, it always equals 2. And because we can count on math with that specificity, we can also trust that his word is true when he says other things, like he loves us and that he sent his own son to die for us, and that if we believe in him, we would inherit eternal life. So that's as true as 1 + 1 = 2, because his word is truth. And so Kate does this fantastic job of weaving these truths. It's also written very conversational. It's written to be independent, so you don't have to sit at the table. Our family was very large. We had a lot going on. We needed curriculums that were independent. And I think independence is very important for students as well.
Especially
it's an
at that
important
age.
life skill. Yeah, and so it's written conversational. You don't need to teach it, but we also have courses in the academy,
Right.
which our sons use,
Yep.
that if they get hung up on something, or it just introduces them to what they're going to learn in that chapter, and it just helps them a little bit to go through it, and then they do it. And it's nice because we really don't have to give them a lot of extra assistance.
Right. Yep.
Revealing Arithmetic is new this year.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of a math book to the teacher.
Right.
Like if you're like, okay, I'm gonna have to teach long division, or I'm gonna have to teach, mixed numbers and fractions, but I forgot because it was a long time ago. Revealing Arithmetic is a great way to shore up those skills. It's also a great way to understand biblical worldview and how to incorporate that into any math curriculum. So you don't just need that for Principles of Math. Like, this is a great resource, even with math lessons for a living education, or algebra, geometry, any other math. And it doesn't even have to be master books. It's just a great resource for the parent.
It's almost like a general math teaching companion.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so then we come to Jacobs, and I already kind of gave a little bit of my sales pitch on Jacobs.
Right. Plus, we also have the video courses in the academy for.
Algebra and geometry will be available as well.
Okay. Awesome. And so, yeah, I wouldn't use these courses without the extra video courses.
Yeah, and what Kate did, the video courses for the algebra and geometry. So she brought that biblical worldview into
Right.
algebra and geometry, which is, I think that's her hallmark.
It's priceless to have that.
Yep.
So I'm excited about getting to use her videos with the two boys with math. Now we also have the Principles of Algebra 2, which is new, which was written by Kate and her husband.
Yes.
And so that was quite an endeavor, and it turned out beautiful.
It took a full year, one designer, working the full year to produce that course. Like, we weren't quite expecting the entire COVID year was going to be spent by this designer working full time for 52 weeks, actually over 52 weeks, to produce this product. But it turned out incredible. It's also meant to be independent. It's conversational in style and incorporates all of the biblical worldview that we really want to see.
Right. And all of these courses have our Hallmark daily schedule. We've reduced the friction points and we've made it easy. And I especially love it when we have the courses to also supplement in the academy.
One thing I'd say about the academy courses for sure is, if you're looking at algebra or geometry, seriously look at the academy courses, because Kate kind of takes this textbook with a lot of problems and she just makes it easier as well, kind of guiding you what you should be doing. These problems, this is where you should go. Like, she kind of worked out the details that can sometimes be a little bit of a friction point.
Yes, she actually developed her own schedule, which I love, because sometimes with Jacobs it can be a little bit daunting with how many problems there are, and so she picked out the essential problems that the student needs to work on, which I really like that.
Okay, so now we're going to get into language, right? And the first thing we come to is our foundation phonics. Tell us a little bit about that.
Foundations Phonics is our learning to read program, the first step in it. And so we've made it very flexible, because as any experienced mom will tell you, all of their children have been different, at least usually. It's very typical for siblings to all vary in their abilities. And so your first student may be ready to read very early, or they may be delayed.
Right.
And so I use that word delayed loosely. Young children develop different from one another. And so one may be highly verbal and another doesn't talk much at all. You may have one that can jump with both feet off the ground and another one that's barely walking without falling.
Mm-hmm.
And so students are very different in the way that they develop between each other, but also in different areas. And so you might find that one just takes right off in one area and lags behind, but then they'll catch up in that area. And so it's kind of like this, approach of growth. And so we tend to think it happens like this, the exact same way, every student, and that's the way the American system of schooling is, but it doesn't actually match the development of children very well.
Right, which other countries that are ranking above the United States in education have also figured out that that students are different, and they usually, like after age 7, that's where you really begin to start to see students are like a lot of the concepts, the skills have developed, and they're a little bit more standard, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Well, what we've done is we've given you 2 schedules. So you can start this in kindergarten. It's not our recommended path, but some parents really feel that their student is ready in kindergarten. There is a way to combine it with Simply K. After a certain lesson, if you go into the app with the Mom's Masterbooks and ask, they'll tell you, because I can't remember right off the top of my head. But you can add it into Simply K in kindergarten after a certain lesson.
For some reason, I think it's like 26 or something.
Yeah, 20, 23, 22, I don't know, something in there. So you can do that if you want, but what we recommend you do is you wait until 1st grade and you do Foundations Phonics in the first half of the year, and then you do Language Lessons for Living Education 1 for the first half. If you do half of it, if you do Foundations in kindergarten, then the language lessons has a year-long schedule so that you can spread that out over the year. It really doesn't serve anybody anything to rush through these.
Right.
And so we want all students to kind of land in the same place around 2nd grade. And so, that's a really good path to do that. And again, that's a gentle approach that has actually proven effective scientifically, rather than how we just shove everybody through in the schools, whether they're ready or not. And we have had so much wonderful feedback on the Foundations Phonics. Families love it. It teaches so much about the Lord and the gospel, all while they're learning to read in a really gentle and effective way.
I love that we have testimonies that have come back of students who've turned their life over to Christ while doing Foundation Phonics. Like, that's one of the fun testimonies that we get.
It is.
So we have young readers. So we have readers that are leveled so that for students who are looking for some extra practice, some fun books, they're available as well as masterbooks. Okay, the new product, Catch On to Cursive. We've gotten some fantastic feedback. It should be available about October is what we're hoping.
This is another course that's really fun because it's being designed right now. And it's just always exciting for me to see a project starting to come alive. It's going from the words that we've been reading for months and months and to photos and just, beautiful.
Yeah.
And so Catch On to Cursive, it was written by Carrie Bailey, and again, she focuses on development of the whole child. And we have some bonus fun things in it because we have a lot of our images we use stock art that we purchased. But this one we have some additional hand-drawn artist work by Katie Odell, who is Angela Odell, author of the Math Lessons series. And so she's been doing some of the artwork for it, which you will see a sneak peek on the cover.
Yep.
And so it's exciting to see this very different cursive course. This is a cursive course like none other. There's nothing out there like it. And so when I asked Carrie to do, I hand-selected Carrie Bailey to write this cursive course because I knew that she knew how to focus on the whole child. And that's what she does. She includes activities that help with that strengthen the core, which includes balance. And so you have to sit at a chair straight in order to have good handwriting. You have to be able to have good hand-eye coordination. You have to understand how much pressure it takes. And so you have to build up hand strength. And so she has activities all throughout this course that work on those things. It's not just here, write this letter, 20 times.
Right.
And so I love it. And she spends more time per letter. So it takes a little bit longer to get to the end of the course than a traditional cursive course. But that's by design. It's so that they spend a little bit more time practicing working with that letter. So of course, as they build, they're able to write words and move into all of that. But it's going to take just a touch longer to get through all those letters.
So it's not like if you went to a department store and found a book on how to write cursive or a cursive book, that's really more just practice your letters. Or just copy the letter E 20 times. It's not going to be that type of book.
It's not that type of a book. But I think that families are really going to love it. And we took the first quarter. It was a rough manuscript, but it was, a good idea of what the course was going to be like. And we asked 3 of our staff who are admins and moderators and help us out a lot behind the scenes. And we gave them it and asked them, didn't tell them anything about it. We just said...
They all had age-appropriate children.
Right. And so we asked them what they thought of the course. And they came back so excited. In fact, the really fun thing is their children were excited. Their spouses were excited.
Right.
Because it was laying there. And so they looked through it and they got excited. And so they were like, yeah, that's not a boring cursive course, and that was the biggest thing, is they were excited that it wasn't boring, that it looked fun. It has a fishing theme. And so Carrie brings in little tidbits about fishing that are just interesting and fun along the way. She incorporates scripture in a way that ties it all in, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. So that's going to be available in October, and hopefully October. But the PDF version should be available much sooner than that. Okay, language lessons for a living education. I have a lot of skin in this product, mostly because Kristen authored this product and was writing it for 2 years. So it was a labor of love and took many, many, many hours to do.
And during a good chunk of it, I was also going through chemo and radiation, and
yes.
So yeah, this was quite an endeavor, but God was so good through it, and we are really excited about this series because it's really helping families, it's helping children. It meets a need in the market, just like the cursive does, because it takes it from a little different angle.
Now you're going to be doing a more in-depth talk on this as well.
Right.
So I'm going to do a pitch, and then you can tell me where I am on it.
You go for it.
Okay. This is a Charlotte Mason-inspired language curriculum that focuses on the whole child. You'll do things like picture studies, and you'll write hymns, and while you're also learning to write and think, it's not just your typical formula type program or circle the noun once, underline the verb twice type program. This is more of a holistic approach to education. It really lays a solid foundation for good communication skills further down the line. Again, Charlotte Mason inspired. It does have some supplemental books that are used throughout the course, like the 10-Minute Bible Journey, 101 Bible Stories. This is designed to be done after Foundations Phonics in first grade. It can be done, there's 2 schedules as well in level 1, I believe.
Right, which we mentioned.
Yep, and can be done
And the books
with
are
them.
required. Dex traditional reading books are required for the course.
Yes, and then it goes through level 6. It does incorporate spelling, and you can adapt the spelling the way you want. And in the back of the book, there's a lot of extra resources, like games and manipulatives and different things that you can do to reinforce what the student is learning. So it's not designed to be hours of language and writing at a time. It's designed to be very basic, Charlotte Mason's way, a hands-on application with a lot of holistic, whole child approach.
It's shorter lessons because that's what actually is proven to help a student retain what they've learned.
Yeah, more time, more work does not mean more retention.
Right, right.
It's a big mistake.
Do we prefer to drink from a drinking fountain or a fire hydrant?
Right.
That's the difference. And so we're probably going to get more water in at a fountain than a fire hydrant and enjoy the experience a whole lot more.
Yes.
And so that's what this is designed to do.
Well, I think you did a splendid job with it.
Thank you.
And yeah, we're most excited about it. And so students our recommendation is that you do that 1st through 6th grade. And then, did you have anything else to add to it?
No.
Okay.
I'll do quite a bit of talking on the next, when we cover the language lessons.
Okay. So then we go to Writing Strands. Now, Writing Strands has been around also for about 30 years, written by David Marks. And we acquired the company a few years ago, and we modified it a little bit. Writing Strands and Reading Strands were 2 programs. We put them together. Good writers make good readers. No, good readers make good writers. So go backwards. And so one week you're doing grammar and writing, the next week you're reading. We don't tell you what books to use. We suggest chapter books or books of interest to your student.
And I would like to add the same with the language lesson series. You're not, some people say, oh yeah, I had to supplement with a lot of books of my own. It's not really supplementing. That's designed into the course because we want the students are all over the place when it comes to what they're interested in reading, what their families enjoy reading, and what their reading ability is. I have some kids that, in 6th grade can read a book that's this thick, and another one is going to cry if you try to assign a book like that.
Yes.
And so we want students to enjoy reading. And so give them books that are at their level and things that are interesting. And so I don't know what your students are going to enjoy reading. And so we didn't assign those books.
We also incorporate Bible as part of the lesson in Reading Strands. But we take a different approach. The Bible that's in here is approached from the Bible is a collection of books, right? It's 66 books written by 40 different authors over 1,500 years in 3 different languages. It's a library, and each one, there's different genres. All of that's incorporated. And so in this curriculum, the student will identify, we'll look at a story or an account in the scripture. We'll ask them, what type of book is this? What from the library, is this a poetry book? Is this a historical book? Is it more of a prophetic book or a letter? Those type of things. And then we'll ask them to identify different parts of the story, like characters, setting, conflict, resolution, application, all the things that we should be thinking about when we're reading as well, even a good way just to study the Bible.
Yep.
So Writing Strands, our recommendation is starts in grade 5, ends in grade 10. There's some overlap with language lessons.
Yes, and some people will choose to do both. It's not necessary. Personally, I would choose one or the other just so that you don't overwhelm your student. But if you have a student that is really just loves to write and just wants more, then go ahead and you can use both. I would suggest that families using Writing Strands purchase the teaching companion. Same with the teaching companion for math. You buy it once, it covers all the levels.
For $7.99, everybody that's purchased it says it's one of the best books they bought because there's so much good information in how to teach.
Yes.
How to teach writing.
And I also would make one available to the student, honestly. So that's what I plan to do. I actually have students that are transitioning from the language lesson series into Writing Strands this year, and I'm going to give them their own teaching companion. And I'm also going to save from the back of level 6 the reference pages
Okay.
for them. And so I'm going to keep those in a separate binder along with parts of the teaching companion and have those all available to my students for reference. One thing to keep in mind, if you are going from language lessons level 6 into writing strands, I recommend that you look at do the placement test for the student.
Right.
Because even though if they've gone through all of the language lesson series through level 6, the same two students are going to still come out with different skills just because of different personality types and the way that God made us as individuals. And you're going from one series into a whole different type of a series. And so I still recommend that you check into that and place your student where they belong within writing strands based on their own experience.
Writing strands is one of my favorites, after language lessons, of course. But what I love about the approach that he did is that he teaches the importance of the words that we use and where it takes a person. And so in marketing, I make a living off my words, right? And he, like, very simply, and some people will be like, oh, this is so, it's low level. He'll have a pencil and he'll say there's a pencil on the table. Then he'll ask the student to describe the pencil so that the reader begins to see it. The yellow pencil is on the table. What kind of table? And he just has you begin to take a very simple sentence and realize that as you craft this sentence, you're actually taking the reader somewhere through the sentence.
Right.
And I think that in this day and age where we have 180 characters or we write posts or we just have a minute to do videos, we need to learn to use our words wisely and understand that our words have impact. And so I think writing strands is really good at teaching that.
For sure.
So, okay, so then we have Jensen's. Jensen's is more of a traditional approach.
Right.
And so grammar, punctuation, format writing, and the vocabulary.
Right, and there's a variety of ways that you could use it. You could use a little bit of all of them throughout the year. You could focus on one thing. So there's just a variety of ways that you could do it, just depending on how you want your student to go through their high school years.
Okay.
So the format writing has a 2-year schedule, and so you can actually split that up between 2 years. That's what I do for their 11th and 12th grade years. I split that up, and then I add a literature component to the year. If they need some grammar practice, then we can add in the grammar.
So format essay would be something similar to an introductory paragraph, 3 supporting paragraphs, the conclusion.
Right. It teaches basic, it teaches some business, like how to write a letter to a company, a resume. So it goes beyond just writing an essay for college, but it also teaches that.
Yeah.
So that's really good.
And Jensen's has been around for, it's been around 20, 30 years as well.
Right.
It's been around the whole time
A
we've been
long
homeschooling.
time. Long time.
So, okay.
And do we have the videos in
The videos
the
are on
Academy?
the Academy and they're also still available on DVD.
Okay, so that's for grammar and format writing only.
Yep. And then the last that we had to talk about would be the American literature, the world literature, and British literature this year.
Probably the biggest question that people have is, does their student have to read all those books before they do the course, and they don't.
Right. There's a summary for each chapter.
Right.
Yep.
So they don't have to read all those books.
There's one book that I don't think made it into the catalog, but something that I would recommend is that families look at the literature with a Christian,
Okay, yeah,
a Christian reading companion for the classics.
right, yeah.
I think that's, like, if you're doing writing strands, this would be a good companion to use with that. Maybe a little better sometimes than the more comprehensive.
Right. And you can pick and choose what's right for your family.
Okay. Awesome. Well, that's it for part 1 of the catalog, and we'll be going through the rest of the catalog in the next session.
Okay.
And thank you for joining us. And if you have any questions, be sure to post and ask. and we'll see you in the next session.
Fantastic.